the 52nd floor. A web developer standing before the most powerful woman in the country. Josephine Hale hadn't called anyone to her office like this in 2 years. Not with that look in her eyes. "Why does your daughter call me Mommy?" The question hung in the air like ice. The whole building had heard it by now. A 5-year-old girl screaming Mommy in the hallway, reaching for Joe, who didn't even smile anymore. James Myers didn't look away. He stared at the woman behind the glass desk and said, "Because you died 3 years ago, and I buried you. Before we continue, please tell us where in the world you are tuning in from. We love seeing how far our stories travel." James Myers had been working at Hale Enterprises for exactly 1 year, 2 months, and 15 days. He counted every single day because he took this job for one reason only, to be close to his dead wife. 3 years ago, James had a normal life. He had a wife named Josephine who was 8 months pregnant with their first child. They lived in a small house on Maple Street with a blue door and a garden that never grew properly. Josephine worked as an accountant at a boring firm downtown. She wasn't rich or famous or powerful. She was just his Joe, the woman who laughed at his terrible jokes and fell asleep on his shoulder every Sunday night while they watched movies. Then came the accident. It happened on a Tuesday night in October. Josephine was driving home from work on Highway 65 when her brakes failed. The police said her car hit a concrete barrier at 60 miles per hour and caught fire. By the time the ambulance arrived, there was nothing left to save. They found her purse in the wreckage, her wedding ring, her driver's license. But the body was too badly burned to identify by sight. James had to use dental records instead. He stood in the rain 3 days later and watched them lower an empty casket into ground. His mother held their 3-month-old daughter, Linda, because James couldn't hold anything. He could barely stand. His father kept one hand on his shoulder the entire time to keep him from collapsing. Everyone told him the same thing afterward. At least the baby won't remember her mother. Like that was supposed to comfort him. Like it was better that his daughter would grow up never knowing the woman who gave birth to her. For 2 years, James tried to rebuild his life. He went to therapy every Tuesday. He joined a support group for single parents. He learned how to braid Linda's hair by watching YouTube videos at 2 in the morning when she woke up crying. He kept all of Josephine's clothes in the closet because throwing them away felt like killing her all over again. He told Linda stories about her mommy every single night before bed, trying to keep Josephine alive in some way. Then everything changed. 2 years after the funeral, James was sitting on his couch at 11:30 at night, watching the business news because he was too tired to find the remote. Linda was asleep in her room. The reporter was covering some tech company that had exploded into success over the past year, Hale Enterprises. The journalist kept calling the CEO the Ice Queen because she was young and brilliant and absolutely ruthless in business. She'd taken a struggling startup and turned it into a billion-dollar empire in just 18 months. The camera cut to footage of the CEO walking out of a board meeting. James dropped his beer. The bottle hit the floor and shattered. He didn't even notice. That was Josephine, his Josephine, walking across the screen like she'd never died at all. Same face, same green eyes, same small scar above her left eyebrow from when she crashed her bike trying to impress him on their second date. Same way of tilting her head slightly to the left when she was thinking hard about something. James grabbed the remote with shaking hands and rewound the segment. Watched it again, and again, and again. He paused on her face and stared until his eyes burned. It was her. It was absolutely her. He spent the rest of the night searching for information online. There were hundreds of articles about Josephine Hale. Photos of her at charity galas wearing designer gowns. Interviews where she talked about building her empire from nothing. Every article told the same story. She'd woken up in a hospital 2.5 years ago with no memory of who she was. No identification. No family. No past. Just a Jane Doe with severe head injury. The hospital kept her for 3 months. When nobody came to claim her, they released her with nothing. She'd taken the last name Hale from the doctor who treated her. Then somehow she built a fortune from scratch. The timeline matched perfectly. Josephine Hale appeared 6 months after his wife's accident. She had no memory of her past. No family. It was impossible. James had identified his wife's body through dental records. He'd buried her. He'd grieved for her. But he also knew what he was seeing. That was Josephine's face on every news site and business magazine. That was her voice in the interview clips. That was her. What if the dental records had been wrong? What if Josephine had survived the crash somehow and lost her memory? What if she'd spent the last 2.5 years building a new life because she couldn't remember her old one? What if his wife was alive? James spent 3 days trying to figure out how to reach her. He called Hale Enterprises a dozen times, but never got past a receptionist. He tried emailing, but got automated responses. He thought about showing up at the building, but new security would never let him near her. Josephine Hale was a billionaire CEO. She lived in a different world now. There was no way for a random guy to just walk up and talk to her. So James made a plan. A desperate, probably stupid plan. But it was all he had. He applied for a job at Hale Enterprises. He had a computer science degree from State and 5 years of experience as a web developer. The company was always hiring tech people. 2 months later, he got an offer. He took it immediately. He moved to the city with Linda, found a cheap 2-bedroom apartment 40 minutes from downtown, enrolled Linda in daycare, started his new job on the 31st floor in the IT department. And for an entire year, James watched his dead wife from a distance, trying to figure out how to tell her she used to be someone else. Josephine's office was everything you'd expect from a billionaire CEO. Floor-to-ceiling windows overlooking the entire city. White marble floors, so clean they reflected the light. Black leather furniture that probably cost more than James's car. A massive glass desk with nothing on it except a silver laptop and one crystal paperweight that looked like it weighed 10 pounds. Everything in the room screamed power and control and money, just like the woman standing behind that desk. Josephine had her arms crossed over her chest. Her face looked perfectly calm and controlled, but James could see the small details that gave her away. The tension in her shoulders, the way her jaw was clenched tight, the slight tremor in her hands that she was trying to hide. She was scared, even if she'd never admit it. Linda was still crying quietly against James's chest. He rubbed her back in slow circles and whispered that everything would be okay. He wasn't sure if that was true, but that's what parents do. They lie to make their children feel safe. "Sit," Josephine said. It wasn't a request. It was a command. James sat down in one of the leather chairs across from her desk. Linda stayed curled up in his lap with her face buried in his shirt. She was still sniffling. Josephine stayed standing. James knew what she was doing. It was a classic power move he'd read about in business articles. Make the other person sit while you stand over them. It makes them feel smaller, weaker, less important. It was working. James felt like a child being called to principal's office. "I'm going to ask you one more time," Josephine said. Her voice was cold as ice. "Why does your daughter call me Mommy?" James took a deep breath. This was the moment he'd been preparing for all year. But now that it was finally here, he didn't know where to start. How do you tell someone they used to be a completely different person? How do you tell someone they forgot an entire life? So he just started with the facts. Her name is Linda Marie Myers. She's 5 years old. Her birthday is April 12th. Her favorite color is purple. She's afraid of the dark, but won't admit it because she thinks that makes her a baby. She wants a puppy for her birthday, even though our apartment doesn't allow pets. She sleeps with a stuffed elephant named Mr. Trunk that's missing one ear. And she asks about you every single night before bed. Josephine's expression didn't change. That still doesn't answer my question. She calls you Mommy because 3 years ago you gave birth to her, James said quietly. St. Catherine's Hospital, room 304. It was a Tuesday afternoon. You were in labor for 14 hours. You screamed at me 4 times and told me you were never letting me touch you again. But then the doctor put her in your arms and you started crying. You looked at me and said we'd made something perfect. Something flickered across Josephine's face. Just for a second, then it was gone, replaced by that cold mask again. I don't know what kind of scam you're running, she started. Her middle name is Marie, James interrupted. After your grandmother, the woman who raised you after your parents died in a car accident when you were 7. The one who taught you how to bake, even though you were absolutely terrible at it. You burned every single batch of cookies you ever tried to make. Josephine's hands gripped the edge of her desk. Her knuckles went white. Stop it. You have a scar above your left eyebrow. James continued. From when you were 12 years old, you crashed your bike trying to do a jump off a homemade ramp in your grandmother's driveway. You needed 6 stitches. Your grandmother was so angry she made you help her rebuild the flower bed you destroyed. I said, stop. Josephine's voice was shaking now. You have a birthmark on your right hip shaped like a butterfly. You were always embarrassed about it. You'd try to hide it at the beach. But I told you it was beautiful, and you cried because nobody had ever called it beautiful before. Get out. Josephine's voice cracked completely. The Ice Queen was melting. I don't know who you are or what you think you're doing, but I want you out of my building right now before I call security and have you arrested for... My name is James Myers, he said quietly, and 3 years ago I was your husband. Complete silence filled the office. Even Linda stopped crying. The only sound was a quiet hum of the air conditioning. Josephine was staring at James like he just told her the sun had stopped existing. Her face had gone completely white. She sank slowly into her chair like her legs had stopped working. That's impossible, she whispered. I don't have a husband. I don't have a child. I don't have any kind of past at all. Yes, you do, James said. You just don't remember it. He reached into his jacket pocket and pulled out the locket. It was old now, tarnished silver. The chain was tangled from being carried around every single day for over a year. He'd taken it from Josephine's jewelry box right after the funeral. He'd kept it in his pocket ever since, because having it close made him feel like she was still with him somehow. He placed it carefully on her glass desk and slid it across to her. Open it, he said. Josephine stared at the locket like it might bite her. She didn't move, didn't reach for it, just stared. Please, James said, just open it. Her hand moved slowly across the desk, like she was fighting against herself, like part of her wanted to run away, and another part needed to know. She picked up the locket. Her hand was shaking so badly the chain rattled against the metal. She took a breath. Then she opened it. Inside were 2 photos, small and faded but still clear enough to see. The first photo showed James and Josephine on their wedding day. They were standing in her grandmother's backyard under the old oak tree. No fancy venue, no expensive photographer, just them in simple clothes, holding hands, smiling like they'd just won the lottery. The second photo was Linda as a newborn, wrapped in a pink hospital blanket, eyes closed, tiny fingers curled against her cheek, perfect and peaceful and small. Josephine stared at the photos. A tear ran down her cheek, then another. Then she was crying for real, silent tears streaming down her face while she stared at a life she couldn't remember. That's not me, she whispered, but there was no conviction in her voice, because the woman in that photo looked exactly like her. The next day, James drove to Hale Enterprises at 11:30 in the morning. Josephine had texted him late last night and told him to meet her in the underground parking garage where the executives kept their expensive cars. She was waiting by a black Mercedes when he pulled up. She looked completely different from yesterday. No power suit, no designer heels, no perfect makeup, just regular jeans and a simple gray sweater. Her hair was pulled back in a ponytail. She looked younger, softer, more like the Josephine he remembered. "Hi," she said when he stopped the car. "Hi," James said back. Linda was bouncing in the back seat. She waved at Josephine through the window with both hands. Josephine smiled. It was small and uncertain, and didn't quite reach her eyes. But it was a real smile. The first one James had seen from her in over a year. She opened the passenger door and got in. James started driving toward Maple Street. Nobody talked for the first 10 minutes. The radio played quietly in the background, some pop song Linda liked. The silence felt heavy and awkward. They weren't strangers, but they weren't exactly family anymore either. They were something in between, something neither of them knew how to name. "How long is the drive?" Josephine asked. "About 40 minutes," James said. She nodded. She kept twisting the locket around her fingers. James noticed she was wearing it around her neck now. That had to mean something, right? "Did you sleep last night?" he asked. "No," Josephine admitted. "I stayed up looking at those photos. I kept thinking if I stared at them long enough, something would click. Some memory would come back. But there's nothing. It's just blank. That's okay. Memory isn't the only thing that matters." "It feels like the only thing that matters," Josephine said quietly. "I look at those photos and I see myself. My face. My body. But it doesn't feel like me. It feels like I'm looking at pictures of a stranger who just happens to look exactly like me. Maybe seeing the house will help," James offered. "Maybe," Josephine said, but she didn't sound convinced. They drove in silence again. Then Linda spoke up from the back seat. "Mommy, do you like purple?" Josephine turned around in her seat to look at Linda. "I don't know, sweetheart." "Do I?" "Uh-huh," Linda said seriously. "Daddy says purple was your favorite color. It's my favorite color, too. We match." "Then I guess I like purple," Josephine said. Her voice was soft. "Do you remember my birthday?" Linda asked. Josephine's small smile faded completely. "No, baby. I'm sorry. I don't." "That's okay," Linda said quickly, like she didn't want Josephine to feel bad. "It's April 12th. You can come to my birthday party this year, if you want. I'm going to be 6. We're going to have chocolate cake. Daddy said so." "I'd really like that," Josephine said. Her voice sounded thick with emotion. When they finally pulled up to the house on Maple Street, Josephine went completely still. It was a small house, white with blue shutters. A tiny front yard with a garden that was dead because it was winter. A mailbox that leaned slightly to the left because James kept meaning to fix it, but never did. Nothing fancy, nothing impressive. Just a normal little house on a normal little street. "This is it?" Josephine asked. "This is it," James confirmed. "Home." Josephine got out of the car slowly. She stood on the sidewalk and stared at the house like she was trying to see through the walls into the past. "We really lived here?" she asked. "For 3 years. We bought it right after we got married. It's not much. The roof leaks when it rains hard. The heater makes weird noises in winter. The kitchen faucet drips no matter how many times I try to fix it. But it was ours." Linda was already running up to the front door. "Come on, Mommy. I want to show you my room. Hurry." James unlocked the door, and they all went inside. The house looked exactly like James had left it that morning. A little messy. Toys scattered across the living room floor. Dishes still in the sink from breakfast. Photos covering every single wall. Their wedding. Their first Christmas together. Josephine pregnant and glowing. Linda as a baby. Birthdays and holidays. And ordinary moments that felt important enough to frame. Josephine walked through the house slowly. She looked at everything. The couch where she used to fall asleep during movies. The kitchen table where they'd eaten dinner together every night. The walls covered in memories she couldn't access. "This was really my life," she whispered. "It was James said, "And it could be again, if you want it." Josephine didn't answer. She just kept walking through the house like she was touring a museum of someone else's life. Linda grabbed Josephine's hand and started pulling her down the hallway. "Come see my room. Come see. You're going to love it." She dragged Josephine to the last door on the left and pushed it open. Linda's room was an explosion of pink and purple. Toys everywhere. Stuffed animals piled on the bed. Drawings taped to the walls. A small bookshelf overflowing with picture books. And hanging on the wall above the bed was a painting in a simple wooden frame. Josephine stopped completely when she saw it. The painting showed a garden full of colorful flowers. Butterflies flying between the blooms. A bright yellow sun shining down. It was simple, not professional, but beautiful in its own way. "You made that," Linda said proudly, "when you were pregnant with me. Daddy told me. You painted it special for my room so I'd have something pretty to look at." Josephine walked closer to the painting. She reached out and touched the frame with shaking fingers. "I painted this," she asked. "You loved painting," James said from the doorway. "You weren't professional or anything, but you'd paint when you were stressed or upset. It calmed you down, made you feel better." Josephine was staring at the painting like it held all the answers to every question she'd ever had. Then suddenly she gasped and put her hand over her mouth. "What?" James asked, immediately concerned. "What is it? Are you okay?" "The smell," Josephine whispered. Her eyes were wide, almost scared. "The room smells like something. Lavender and baby powder and something else. Something sweet that I can't identify." "That's just Linda's soap," James said. "You always bought lavender soap. You said the smell helped you sleep at night. And Linda uses the same baby powder you used to use on her when she was little." Josephine closed her eyes and breathed in deeply. "I know this smell," she said. Her voice was shaking. "I know it. It feels familiar, like I've smelled it 1,000 times before." "You have," James said gently. "This was your daughter's room. You spent hours in here, rocking her to sleep when she cried, reading her stories, singing to her. You painted that picture because you wanted her first room to be beautiful." Josephine opened her eyes. There were tears running down her face now. She looked at James with an expression that was equal parts hope and fear. "I can almost remember," she whispered. "It's right there, right on the edge of my mind. But I can't quite reach it." "That's okay," James said. "You don't have to remember everything right now. But I want to," Josephine said desperately. "I want to remember so badly it hurts." James woke up at 3 a.m. to the sound of someone screaming. He threw off his blanket and ran down the hallway. His heart was pounding. He burst through the bedroom door. Without thinking, Josephine was sitting up in bed, gasping for air like she'd been drowning. Her face was completely white. Her whole body was shaking so hard the bed was moving. Sweat dripped down her forehead. Her eyes were wide and terrified. "What's wrong?" James asked. He rushed to her side. "What happened? Are you okay?" Josephine looked at him, really looked at him, and something in her eyes was different, changed. "If you're listening right now, help me prove something wrong. My dad said I wouldn't even reach 1,000 subscribers, but I believe stories like this deserve to be heard. Help me show him that these tales matter. Now let's continue." "I remembered," she whispered. "I remembered everything." James froze. "What?" "The accident," Josephine said. Her voice was shaking. "It wasn't an accident, James. Someone tried to kill me. She tried to kill me." "What are you talking about?" James sat down on the edge of the bed. "Who tried to kill you?" "My sister," Josephine said. "Rachel. My sister Rachel tried to murder me." James felt like someone had punched him in the stomach. "That's impossible. Rachel loved you. She was at our wedding. She was at the hospital when Linda was born. She cried when we told her You were pregnant. No, Josephine said. She was crying now. She hated me. She hated me, and I never knew it. She grabbed James's hand so tight it hurt. I was sleeping just now and I started dreaming. Except it wasn't a dream. It was a memory. I saw everything. I remembered everything. Tell me, James said. Josephine took a shaky breath. The night of the accident, I was working late at the office. Everyone else had gone home. I was about to leave when Rachel showed up. She said she needed to talk to me about something important, about grandmother's will. James remembered Josephine's grandmother. She died 6 months before the accident. She'd left everything to Josephine. The house, the money, all of it. We went down to the parking garage together. Josephine continued. Rachel was acting strange, nervous. She kept asking me questions about the car. Said she'd heard weird noises when I drove her somewhere the week before. She offered to check under the hood before I left. Josephine's grip on James's hand got even tighter. I watched her walk around in front of the car. I thought she was just being helpful, being a good sister. But then I saw her kneel down by the front tire. I couldn't see what she was doing because the car was blocking my view. But now I remember. She was cutting the brake line. How do you know that's what she was doing? James asked. Maybe she really was just checking. Because I remember what happened next, Josephine said. She stood up, and her hands were covered in brake fluid. She wiped them on her jeans real quick, told me everything looked fine, told me to drive safe. Then she left. Tears were streaming down Josephine's face now. 20 minutes later, I tried to brake on the highway, and nothing happened. The pedal just went straight to the floor. I remember everything. The panic, the fear, trying to steer, the car flipping, the glass breaking, flying through the windshield. But you died, James said. The police said you died in the fire. I didn't die, Josephine said. When the car flipped, I got thrown out through the windshield before it hit the barrier. I landed in the ditch on the side of the road. I was unconscious, bleeding, but I wasn't in the car when it burned. James felt sick, but they identified your body, the dental records. I don't know how that happened, Josephine admitted. Maybe the records were wrong. Maybe there was someone else in the car. Maybe Rachel did something to make everyone think I was dead. I don't know. All I know is that I woke up in a hospital 3 months later with no memory of who I was. Why would Rachel do this? James asked, why would she try to kill you? The inheritance, Josephine said bitterly. Grandmother left everything to me. Rachel got nothing. She thought it wasn't fair. She wanted half of it. I told her she could have whatever she wanted. I told her we could split everything down the middle, but she didn't want half. She wanted all of it, and the only way to get all of it was if I was dead. James put his head in his hands. This was too much. All of it was too much. We need to call the police, he said. We need to tell them what happened. Rachel needs to be arrested. And tell them what? Josephine asked. That I suddenly remembered my sister tried to kill me 3 years ago. That I have no proof except a recovered memory. They'll never believe me. Memory isn't evidence. Especially not memory that comes back after 3 years. So what do we do? James asked helplessly. Josephine was quiet for a long moment. Then she said, I need to see her. I need to confront her. I need to look her in the eye and ask her why she let you think I was dead, why she let Linda grow up without a mother, why she destroyed our entire family just because she wanted money. Do you even know where she is? No, Josephine admitted. I tried looking for family when I became Josephine Hale, but I couldn't find anyone. She probably took the inheritance money and disappeared, started a new life somewhere far away where nobody would ask questions. Then how are we going to find her? Josephine looked at him with determined eyes. I have resources now. I have money. I have connections. I can hire private investigators. I can search every database. I can find her. And when I do, I'm going to make sure she pays for what she did. Josephine. I remember everything now, James, she interrupted. Our wedding, the day you proposed, the day we found out I was pregnant, Linda being born, every single moment of our life together. I remember loving you. I remember what it felt like to be happy. And I remember my sister taking all of that away from me. She grabbed his face with both hands and made him look at her. I want to come home. I want to be Linda's mother. I want to be your wife. I don't care about Hale Enterprises. I don't care about being a CEO. I just want my family back. But first, I need to deal with Rachel. I need closure. Do you understand? James nodded. I understand. Will you help me find her? Yes, James said without hesitation. We'll find her together. Josephine kissed him then. A real kiss, not uncertain or tentative. A kiss that said she remembered exactly who he was and what they meant to each other. When she pulled away, she was smiling through her tears. I love you, James Myers. I remember loving you 3 years ago, and I love you right now, and I'm going to love you for the rest of my life. I love you too, James said. I never stopped, not for a single second. 2 months passed. 2 long months of searching and tracking down every possible lead. Josephine used every resource at her disposal. She hired the best private detectives money could buy. She searched through financial records, property databases, social media accounts. Finally, on a cold March morning, one of the investigators called. They'd found Rachel living in a small coastal town in Oregon under a different name. She'd been working as a waitress at a local diner. Josephine flew out that same day. James went with her. The diner was small and worn down. Faded yellow paint on the walls. Cracked vinyl booths. And there, behind the counter wearing a stained apron, was Rachel. She looked older, tired. The guilt had aged her. Rachel saw them walk in and dropped the coffee pot she was holding. It shattered on the floor. Her face went completely white. Josie, she whispered. Oh, God. Josie, you're alive. They sat in a booth in the back corner. Rachel couldn't stop crying. I'm so sorry, Rachel sobbed. I thought I deserved that money. I thought grandmother loved you more than me. I was jealous of everything you had. The husband, the baby, the life. And I destroyed it all. She looked at James with desperate eyes. When I realized what I had done, I wanted to come forward, but I was too much of a coward. I took the money and I ran. You let my daughter grow up without her mother, James said coldly. I know, Rachel whispered, and I'll never forgive myself for that. Josephine was quiet for a long time. Then she reached across the table and took Rachel's hand. You're my sister, she said quietly. You're my family. What you did was unforgivable, but I'm choosing to forgive you anyway, because that's what family does. Rachel broke down completely. I don't deserve your forgiveness. I know, Josephine said, but I'm giving it to you anyway. You come home with us. You meet your niece properly. You help me rebuild the life you took from me. You spend the rest of your life making this right. Rachel nodded through her tears. Yes, anything. 3 weeks later, Josephine officially stepped down as CEO of Hale Enterprises. She sold the company and donated half the money to charity. Then she came home. Really home. She moved back into the little house on Maple Street. She enrolled Linda in a good school. She started painting again. She and James renewed their vows in her grandmother's backyard under the same oak tree. Rachel moved into a small apartment nearby. She came over for dinner every Sunday. She babysat Linda. She was trying to earn back the trust she destroyed. It wasn't perfect. Some days Josephine still felt the anger, but she chose forgiveness anyway. Because family is complicated. Family hurts you, but family also puts you back together. And finally, after 3 long years, everything had gone back to normal. A new normal. A better normal. This story explores the devastating impact of trauma on memory and identity. illustrating how amnesia can completely reshape a person's life, while the emotional connections to loved ones may still exist beneath the surface. It demonstrates the resilience of the human spirit in rebuilding from nothing, but also raises important questions about justice, family betrayal, and the unreliability of recovered memories as evidence. The narrative shows how grief transforms people, how single parents navigate loss while protecting their children, and how determination can drive someone to extraordinary lengths to reclaim what was taken from them. Most significantly, it reminds us that identity is more than just memory. It's built through relationships, choices, and a willingness to fight for the people we love, even when we can't remember why we love them in the first place. So here's the real question. Did you subscribe yet? Thousands of people will listen to this story and won't subscribe. Please don't be that person. If you're listening right now, help me prove something wrong. My dad said I wouldn't even reach 1,000 subscribers, but I believe stories like this deserve to be heard. Help me show him that these tales matter. Please subscribe to this channel, and let's keep breathing life into stories that were never meant to stay silent. And here's what I need to know. Do you want part 2?